we can list elements from the cloud, we can create new elements, save existing elements, and what we need to implement now is the ability to delete elements from the cloud. How is this going to work? You're going to be able to click on the delete button, and that's going to make an AJAX call to our imaginary server. That server will run some validation on its own. If it's all good, it's going to delete the entry from the database, and it's going to notify the client back with a response. If that response indicates that the entry was removed, our client side will update itself. The response that we'll get will have this format, the same that we had when updating an entry. Basically, a simple object that's going to say success 1. We put that into delete.json inside of the data folder. Let's go to our service and implement this. Again, we're going to use HTTP, the service that allows us to make all these calls to the server. The verb will depend on your own implementation. So it could be post, it could be delete. It works in the exact same manner. In my case, I'm going to use post, and the URL will be data/delete.json. The parameter that we'll send, we won't send the entire object, there's no point, we're just going to send the ID of the object. Upon successful response, we get something back from the server. If that response that we get has the success property, then we can remove the data from our client side, because it's basically our server side telling us, yes, it worked, we were able to remove it, so now you can update your view. We already had the code to remove the entry from our client side, and I'm just going to copy and paste it. It's using the reject method by underscore. So a quick overview of this method again. Basically, it will iterate through this entire list. Each element that complies with this condition will be removed. That will be, of course, just one of the elements, because each element has a different ID. So only one element will have the same ID. This will return the array without those elements. And that's what we get for service.entries, which is what is shown here. And since we're watching that expression, upon changes, it will, of course, be updated too. You can have a case where there's some sort of error going on the server, like your server's down, the person doesn't have the permissions to edit that entry, or anything you can imagine. There's some validation issues. In that case, you can always just show something back. Also, you could add some else in here if there's a successful response as such, but for some reason it wasn't updated. You could have all sorts of cases here. That will really depend on your own implementation. Let's have a test. I have the list here. I can delete entries. What if we look at our network panel? We have all these calls to delete.json. If I inspect any of them, we'll get, well, of course, the same response in all of them, because there's no real server side. What about the headers? We are sending the right parameters. Yes, you can see that here. In this case, it was ID3, ID6. Those are the ones that were removed from our list. So as you can see, implementing deletion on the server, on the client side, but assuming there's a cloud, is extremely simple and very similar to creation and updating.